Welcome to Nerf and Turf. I'm Andrew, and on today's episode of Nerf and Turf, we're going to be talking about hammer action blasters. So I am quite a fan of hammer action blasters. The Double Strike was the first hammer action blaster I got, and I fell in love with it instantly because I realized, wait a minute, I can dual wield these, and they don't have to be semi-automatic blasters. They can be very simple pistols that are hammer action like that. And I just love the heck out of them because they are so much fun. You can hand them to just about anybody and they know how to use them. And so I've only got these two and then a hammer shot. And so we're going to be talking about those and just what that did for the hobby. So we'll start with the Double Strike. It's just a simple zombie, it was in the zombie line series, that it was just a simple pistol, smart AR system where you put 2 darts in and then your hammer loads. So that's all you do to prime is pull that back and then you fire a dart out. And it gets a pretty great shot. It's very similar to the Jolt design. However, instead of pulling the pump at the bottom, you're just using your thumb to pull that back. And I know that with some of my smaller Nerfers that I've played with, they have a difficult time getting that hammer back. And so that's something to keep in mind, that a smaller Nerfer, you might need both your hands, both your thumbs to pull that down. That's totally fine. That's not a bad thing. It's just a larger, honestly, the grip's pretty small, so most people can get their thumb on it, but it's going to be more difficult for a younger Nerfer. It's mainly designed for older Nerfers who can get their thumb on it and pull back like that and get that. It's not that difficult, but I understand for a smaller Nerfer it could be harder. And so again, this blaster, it's a smart AR, and so if I just have 1 dart in, it's just going to fire that 1 dart, and if I have 2, it's going to fire the top and then the bottom. The only problem with smart ARs is generally the top barrel is going to shoot a little harder, reasons unbeknownst to me, but it generally shoots the top one harder. And something I've had a problem with one of my other Double Strikes is that when I fire, sometimes it fires both darts out, or it'll mainly fire the top one and the bottom one just kind of falls out. And so that's just a problem that comes with a smart AR system. Also, they've got great weight to them, so when your hand's not super sweaty, you can get a really great spin off of these as you dual wield them. So recently I used these when I was playing a zombies game with some friends, and the reason they're beautiful is when you have 2, you can keep both zombies at bay. And so instead of only being able to point 1 blaster to zombie, if I've got 2 zombies coming at me, I'm keeping them still like this as my friends are running, or as we're trying to do an objective or grab doors or make barricades, whatever. I can keep multiple zombies at bay just with the threat of getting hit. So that's the beautiful thing of being able to dual wield and having something that you can fire and then immediately fire again. And so that's the really neat thing about the hammer action styled blasters. Next here I have the Hammer Shot, which is the other hammer action blaster from the Zombies line. So this one, instead of being a smart AR, it is a cylinder system. So it's a 5 dart cylinder, which is interesting because blasters like the Maverick or the Strong Arm, those are all 6 cylinders, but this one is much smaller. But it's very interesting, and I'll get into that. The one thing you can get around the 5 dart barrel is, especially on Thingiverse and on Etsy, you can find plans and you can find the parts where people have made 6, even 7 shot cylinders for this. It still fits, minimal modding, so you can get more shots out of it, which is awesome. But one of the beautiful things I find with the cylinder, it is pretty small, but it doesn't lock in place when you spin it, which is very interesting. It free flows, so you don't have to worry about having the cylinder in the right place as you load it. Because instead, when you pull the hammer back, it then locks one of the cylinders into place, one of the darts into place so you can fire it. And I just find that so interesting that instead of having to be worried about having this lined up, since it is a free and fairly open cylinder, when I load it with hammer action, it immediately puts one of the darts into place, which is really neat. I find that a very interesting thing as opposed to some other cylinder-based blasters that sometimes it doesn't line up correctly. Instead, you know that the hammer action is what pulls the dart into the correct place. So again, this can be a blaster you can dual wield because it's just going to take a quick hammer action to get it reloaded, and this is going to be a little smarter than your double strike. However, the reason I love the double strike, not to say I don't love the hammer shot, I'll get to that in a second, but the reason I love the double strike is because you can easily fit it into your pocket. It's so itty bitty. It's very similar to some of the firearms I actually have that are very small and concealable, because you can just stuff them into your pants, stuff them into your pocket, and you have a really quick extra secondary Nerf blaster ready. However, the nice thing about the hammer shot is it could be your primary. Yes, it's only 5 shots, but it's really easy to reload, and 5 shots is pretty decent, especially when you're playing a zombie style game. And so that's the beauty of the hammer shot, especially if you're dual wielding them. And so it's just such a fun blaster, and it's probably the best weighted blaster for spinning that I found. I know I just dropped it, but it's one of the best blasters for spinning that I've found. So super neat. I understand why the hobby loves it so much, because what's happening is when you're pushing this down, you're compressing the spring into the plunger tube, which is down here. And so it's now compressed that, and so when you fire it, it's ejecting the air up into the cylinder that's ready. It's just such a great mechanism. I love the hammer action blasters because the mechanisms are just so clever, and I love it. I know that the Zombie Strike series is not the only line that carries hammer action blasters. You've got blasters like the Lawbringer, the Persuader, and other things like that. I believe the Lawbringer is a 10 dart cylinder. It's more like a rifle styled, but I've played with people that they minimalize it, where they cut off the stock, they cut off the front end. So it's more similar to the hammer shot, but it's a 10 dart cylinder. And so I've seen them dual wield those. They beef up the spring a little bit too, and they're full two-handing primaries, and it's so much fun to watch them. And so they have a lot of fun. I've thought about getting my hands on one of those and fixing it up pretty soon. So looking forward to that. It's just a very fun blaster. I giggle every time I shoot it. And it's also just a very simple blaster that people can't really mess up. Like, I can hand this to just about anybody and they can yes, it's only 5 darts, so that limits it on its primary class ability. But as a secondary, it's really easy to holster. It's not as easy to stuff in a pocket or in your pants as the double strike would be. However, if you've got a simple holster, you can even build a duct tape holster, and this will fit very well. It's very symmetric. It's a beautifully designed blaster, and I love this thing. So that's just me briefly discussing the hammer action and why they're such a huge part of our hobby and why people love these as their secondaries. Because as much fun as the strong arm is, it's just, you can't dual wield them. And you feel so cool when you're dual wielding things. You just feel like you're some cowboy just running around, pow pow. And I don't know, half the time with Nerf, it's just having fun and feeling awesome. Although if you film it and somebody else watches it, it might look pretty ridiculous and nerdy. But when you're doing it, man, you're having fun, and it's awesome. And so that's the beauty of it. So that's just a simple talk on these hammer action blasters. Let me know if you're interested in these, if you use these as a sidearm, or if you don't, and if you prefer the strong arm, let me know. Because yeah, that one has slam fire, and so people prefer that. It's got 1 extra dart, slam fire, so for non-modders, they might love that. But for this, you can mod it, beef it up, and it's pretty sweet. So let me know on that. Also, there's going to be a little circle thing at the end of this video, so be sure to hit that, and that's the subscribe button. That way you can be subscribed to my channel, and you can be the first one to know when I've put a new episode out, because I'm hopefully going to be doing another Nerf war over the fall. And so make sure you're keeping your eye out for that so you can jump in on that, because it's going to be pretty fun. And if you're not subscribed, you're not going to hear about it. So make sure you click that button and subscribe, and even hit that little bell icon. That way you're notified when a new video's out. So make sure you do that and get on out there and Nerf your turf. Have a blessed day. Bye-bye.